Document. Part 6, The Descent onto Zetharian, was anything but smooth. The ship shuddered violently as it pierced through the planet's thick, toxic atmosphere, alarms blaring in the cockpit. Ethan gripped the edge of his seat, his knuckles white as he stared out the viewport at the desolate landscape below. Jagged mountains jutted out of a barren wasteland, their peaks shrouded in swirling clouds of ash and smoke. In the distance, the fortress loomed like a monolith, a towering structure of black metal and glowing red veins that pulsed with energy. "This is going to be messy," Maria muttered from the pilot's seat, her hands steady on the controls, despite the chaos around them. "Hold tight." Ethan exchanged a glance with Zenara, who sat beside him, her face calm but resolute. She had warned them about the Valerie's atmospheric defenses, automated drones and energy fields designed to repel intruders. As if on cue, a swarm of sleek, insect-like drones appeared on the radar, closing in fast. "Here they come," Jake shouted from the rear of the ship, manning the turret. He unleashed a barrage of plasma rounds, taking down several drones in quick succession. The rest scattered, only to regroup moments later, firing back with relentless precision. "We can't keep this up forever," Sam yelled over the din of explosions. "We need to land now." Maria nodded grimly and angled the ship toward a narrow canyon near the base of the fortress. It wasn't part of the original plan, but they didn't have a choice. With one last burst of speed, she guided the ship into the canyon, narrowly avoiding a volley of enemy fire. The hull groaned under the strain as they skidded to a halt inside a shallow cave hidden from view. "Everyone out," Cole barked, already moving toward the hatch. "Gear up. We don't have much time before they find us." Once outside, the team moved quickly, sticking to the shadows cast by the towering cliffs. The air was thick with sulfur, making it hard to breathe without their helmets' filtration systems. Ethan kept his rifle ready, scanning the area for any sign of movement. Beside him, Zenara moved with quiet grace, her sharp eyes picking up details he might have missed. "They'll send search parties," she said softly, her voice crackling slightly through the coms. "We need to stay off their sensors." "How do we do that?" Ethan asked, glancing at her. She pointed to a cluster of jagged rocks nearby. "Those formations are rich in minerals that interfere with their scans. Stick close to them, and we'll minimize our chances of being detected." Following her lead, the group weaved through the rocky terrain, staying low and silent. Every step felt heavy, not just because of the gravity, but because of the weight of what lay ahead. Ethan could feel the pressure building in his chest, but he forced himself to focus. Lily was somewhere inside that fortress. He couldn't afford to falter now. After nearly an hour of careful navigation, they reached the outer perimeter of the fortress. A massive wall surrounded the compound, patrolled by squads of Valerii soldiers armed with lethal-looking weapons. Above them, guard towers bristled with turrets, their barrels tracking every inch of the ground below. "This is insane," Jake whispered, shaking his head. "There's no way we can get past all that." "Don't need to," Zenara replied calmly. "There's a maintenance tunnel about 50 meters east. It leads directly into the lower levels of the fortress. Fewer guards, less risk." Cole raised an eyebrow. "You sure about this?" "Yeah," Zenara said firmly. "I've seen schematics like this before. Trust me." With no other options, the team followed Zenara to the location she had described. Sure enough, there was a small access hatch embedded in the side of the cliff, partially concealed by debris. Sam worked quickly to disable the lock, his fingers flying over the keypad as sweat dripped down his forehead. "Got it," he announced after a tense minute. The hatch hissed open, revealing a dark, narrow passage beyond. "Let's move," Cole ordered, motioning for everyone to enter. One by one, they slipped inside, their flashlights cutting through the gloom. The air was damp and cold, carrying the faint hum of machinery echoing through the walls. The tunnel led them deeper into the fortress, twisting and turning until they emerged into a vast chamber filled with rows of stasis pods, similar to those they had seen on Krylo 7. Each pod contained a captive, some human, others alienal, suspended in a state of unconsciousness. Ethan's heart sank as he scanned the room, searching desperately for Lily. But she wasn't there. "She's not here," said his voice hollow with disappointment. Zenara placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. "We'll find her. Keep looking." As they continued their search, Sam stumbled upon a terminal connected to the fortress's mainframe. "This could give us intel on where they're holding high-priority prisoners," he said, pulling out his datapad. "But it'll take time to decrypt." "Do it," Cole instructed. "The rest of us will cover you." While Sam worked, the others fanned out, keeping watch for any signs of trouble. Ethan paced anxiously, his mind racing with worst-case scenarios. What if Lily wasn't even on this planet? What if a sudden noise interrupted his thoughts, the sound of footsteps approaching from a nearby corridor? Ethan signaled for silence, raising his weapon as the others took defensive positions. Moments later, a squad of Veilari soldiers entered the chamber, their glowing eyes sweeping the area. Now what? No alarms. Ethan nodded, creeping forward alongside Zanara. As using hand signals, they coordinated their attack, striking with precision and efficiency. Within minutes, the Veilari were neutralized, their bodies slumping to the floor without a sound. "That was too close," Jake muttered, wiping sweat from his brow. Before anyone could respond, Sam let out a triumphant cry. "I've got it. There's a secure wing on the upper level where they're holding key captives. That's probably where Lily is." Ethan felt a surge of hope. "Then let's go." The journey to the secure wing was fraught with danger. Encountered more patrols, automated defenses, and locked doors that required quick thinking to bypass. At one point, they narrowly avoided detection by hiding in a ventilation shaft while a group of Veilari passed beneath them. Through it all, Zanara remained calm and composed, guiding them with unwavering confidence. Finally, they reached the entrance to the secure wing, a reinforced door guarded by two heavily armed Veilari soldiers. Cole motioned for everyone to prepare, then gave the signal to strike. The fight was brief but intense, leaving the team breathless but victorious. Inside, they found themselves in a long hallway lined with cells. Each one contained a prisoner, their faces gaunt and hollow with despair. Ethan's heart raced as he peered into each cell, praying to see Lily's face. And then finally, he saw her. "Lily," shouted, rushing to the cell door. His sister looked up, her blue eyes wide with disbelief. For a moment, neither of them spoke. They simply stared at each other, overwhelmed by emotion. "You came for me," Lily whispered, tears streaming down her face. "Of course I did," Ethan replied, his voice breaking. "I promised I'd bring you home." Behind him, Zanara used a portable hacking device to unlock the cell. As soon as the door slid open, Lily threw herself into Ethan's arms, sobbing uncontrollably. He held her tightly, vowing never to let her go again. But their reunion was short-lived. An alarm blared suddenly, red lights flashing throughout the corridor. "They know we're here," Cole shouted. "We need to move." Ethan helped Lily to her feet, supporting her as they hurried back toward the exit. As they ran, Zanara stayed close, ensuring Lily's safety. The team fought their way through waves of Veilari reinforcements, their movements fueled by adrenaline and desperation. Just as they reached the final corridor leading to the maintenance tunnel, disaster struck. A squad of elite Veilari warriors blocked their path, their weapons trained directly on the group. Before anyone could react, a familiar voice called out from behind the enemy line. "Drop your weapons," Jake said coldly, stepping into view. His expression was unreadable, but his betrayal was unmistakable. "Or none of you leave this place alive." End of document. Document. Part for the days following the mission to Krylo 7 passed in a blur of debriefings, data analysis, and planning sessions. Ethan spent most of his time poring over the information Sam had retrieved from the outpost, searching for any clue that might lead him closer to Lily. The files were dense with alien symbols and technical jargon, but Sam worked tirelessly to translate them. Piecing together fragments of intelligence about Veilari operations, one evening, as Ethan sat in the dimly lit briefing room, Sam approached him with an excited glint in his eyes. "I think I found something," he said, holding up a tablet displaying a map of star systems. "There's mention of a heavily fortified planet called Zitharin. It's listed as a primary processing center for captives." Ethan leaned forward, his heart racing. "Do you think Lily could be there?" "It's possible," Sam replied, cautiously. "Zitharian is deep within Valara-controlled space, so it won't be easy to get to. But if she's being held anywhere, this is our best bet." Ethan clenched his fists, determination burning in his chest. He didn't care how dangerous or difficult the mission would be. If there was even a chance Lily was on Zetharian, he had to go. Before they could finalize plans for another assault, however, Captain Cole called Ethan into his office. The older man's expression was unusually serious as he motioned for Ethan to sit down. "We've got a situation," Cole began, leaning back in his chair. "One of our reconnaissance teams picked up a distress signal near the edge of Valerie territory. They're requesting assistance." "What kind of assistance?" Ethan asked, his brow furrowing. Cole hesitated before answering. "It's coming from an unidentified vessel. Preliminary scans suggest it belongs to someone or something trying to escape the Valari. Whoever it is, they're badly injured. And running out of time?" Ethan frowned. "Why does this involve me?" "Because we need someone who can handle himself in unpredictable situations," Cole explained. "You've proven yourself capable, and I trust your judgment. Plus, if this individual has intel on the Valari, it could help us plan future missions, including the one to Zetharian." Though reluctant to delay his search for Lily, Ethan couldn't argue with Cole's reasoning. Every piece of information brought him closer to finding her. "All right," he said finally, "I'll do it." The rescue operation took place aboard a small, agile scout ship designed for stealth. Ethan was accompanied by Maria, whose combat skills made her an ideal partner for such a risky endeavor. As they approached the coordinates of the distress signal, the tension in the cockpit was palpable. "There," Maria said, pointing to a flickering blip on the radar screen. "That's the ship." Through the viewport, they spotted a battered craft drifting aimlessly through space. Its hull was scorched and dented, evidence of heavy fire. Ethan guided their ship alongside it, matching its trajectory before initiating docking procedures. Once inside the damaged vessel, Ethan and Maria moved cautiously, their weapons drawn. The interior was dark and eerily silent, save for the occasional groan of strained metal. Sparks flew from exposed wiring, casting erratic shadows on the walls. "Over here, Day," Maria called softly, gesturing toward a closed door at the end of a narrow corridor. Ethan nodded and followed her lead, his senses on high alert. When they opened the door, they found a figure slumped against the far wall, barely conscious. At first glance, it wasn't human. Its skin was a shimmering silver hue, and its elongated limbs ended in delicate webbed fingers. But what struck Ethan most were its eyes. Large, almond-shaped, and filled with pain. Maria knelt beside the creature, checking for injuries. "It's alive," she said, her voice tinged with concern, but barely. Ethan crouched down as well, meeting the alien's gaze. "Can you understand me?" he asked slowly, unsure if communication was even possible. To his surprise, the creature nodded weakly, its lips parted, emitting a series of soft, melodic sounds that seemed almost musical. Though Ethan couldn't comprehend the words, the tone conveyed desperation and gratitude. "We need to get it back to the ship," Maria urged, already gathering medical supplies from her pack. Together, they carefully lifted the alien and carried it back to their vessel, back on board. Sam worked quickly to stabilize the mysterious passenger, while Ethan and Maria waited anxiously nearby. After what felt like hours, Sam emerged from the makeshift medbay. Looking exhausted but satisfied. "She's going to make it," he announced. "Her injuries are severe, but nothing permanent. With rest and proper care, she should recover fully." "She," Ethan repeated, surprised. Sam nodded. "Yes, female. Her species identifies gender differently than humans, but based on biological markers, she's female." Ethan exchanged a glance with Maria. "Does she have a name?" Sam shrugged. "Not yet. She hasn't spoken much, but when she does, I'm recording everything. Hopefully, we can establish some form of communication soon." Over the next few days, Ethan visited the alien regularly, curious about her story. Each time she seemed a little stronger, her glowing eyes brighter and more alert. One day, as Ethan entered the medbay, she reached out a trembling hand toward him, hesitant but willing. He took it gently. "Thank you," she said suddenly, her voice soft and lilting. To Ethan's astonishment, she was speaking English. At least something close to it? You speak our language? I asked, amazed. Learned from captors, she replied haltingly. Valari. Cruel teachers? Ethan's jaw tightened at the mention of the Valari. What's your name? Zanara? She whispered, her grip tightening slightly. I escaped, but not alone. Many died. I'm sorry, Ethan said sincerely. We'll protect. You now, you're safe with us. Zanara studied him for a long moment, as if trying to gauge whether she could trust him. Finally, she nodded faintly. You fight, Valari. Yes, Ethan replied firmly. They took my sister. I won't stop until I find her. A flicker of understanding passed across Zanara's face. I know Zetharian, she murmured. Where captives go, where hope fades. Ethan's pulse quickened. Can you take us there? Zanara hesitated, her expression troubled. Dangerous. Very dangerous. But if you swear to free others, I will guide you. Ethan didn't hesitate, I swear. As Zanara recovered, she began sharing fragments of her past with Ethan. She described her homeworld, a lush planet destroyed by the Valari, and her years of captivity aboard their ships and outposts. Despite the horrors she had endured, there was a quiet strength in her voice that inspired Ethan. Her resilience reminded him of his own resolve to save Lily. In turn, Ethan told Zanara about Earth, showing her pictures of forests, oceans, and cities. He spoke of his parents, his childhood, especially Lily, the bond they shared, and the promise he had made to bring her home. Zanara listened intently, her luminous eyes reflecting both sadness and admiration. You love fiercely, she said one evening, her tone warm. This is rare among beings I have known. Ethan smiled faintly. Love is all I have left, so it keeps me going. Their growing connection wasn't lost on the rest of the team. Maria teased Ethan good-naturedly about having an alien girlfriend, while Sam marveled at how quickly Zanara was adapting to human culture. Even Captain Cole softened slightly, acknowledging that Zanara's knowledge and courage could prove invaluable in the fight against the Valari. Yet, beneath the camaraderie and newfound hope, Ethan remained acutely aware of the challenges ahead. Zetharian was no ordinary target. It was a fortress bristling with defenses and crawling with enemies. Rescuing Lily and any other captives would require every ounce of skill, strategy, and bravery they possessed. But for the first time since Lily's abduction, Ethan felt truly prepared. With Zanara by his side and the Frontier Guard backing him up, he believed they stood a fighting chance. No matter how daunting the odds, he refused to let fear dictate his actions. Lily was waiting for him, and he intended to keep his promise. End of document. Document Part 5. The journey toward Zetharian was long and filled with tension. Ethan, Zanara, and the rest of the team spent countless hours preparing for what lay ahead. The plan was risky, dangerous, but they all knew it was their best shot at saving Lily and potentially freeing other captives held by the Valari. Zanara proved to be an invaluable asset during this time. Her knowledge of Valari tactics and technology gave the team a critical edge. She spent hours teaching them how to recognize patterns in enemy movements, identify weak points in their defenses, and navigate the labyrinthine structures of their fortresses. Though her methods were unconventional, Ethan found himself learning more from her than he ever had in training simulations. As days turned into weeks, Ethan noticed subtle changes in his relationship with Zanara. At first, their interactions had been purely practical, focused on planning and strategy, but as they worked together, something deeper began to form. They shared stories late at night when the others were asleep, talking about their lives before the war against the Valari. Zanara spoke of her family, her friends, and the beauty of her home world, a place now reduced to ashes. Ethan listened, intently, offering comfort in ways he never thought possible. In return, Zanara showed genuine interest in Earth and its people. She asked questions about human customs, emotions, and values. One evening, as they sat side by side in the ship's observation deck, gazing out at the endless expanse of stars, she turned to him with a curious expression. "Why do humans fight so hard for each other?" she asked softly. "Even when the odds are impossible?" Ethan hesitated, thinking carefully before answering. "'Cause we care," he said finally. "We're not perfect, we make mistakes. We hurt each other, but when someone we love is in danger, we'll do anything to protect them. It's just who we are." Zanara nodded slowly, her glowing eyes reflecting the faint light from the viewport. "Your kind is stronger than you realize. Perhaps that is why the Volari fear you." Her words stayed with Ethan long after their conversation ended. He realized that humanity's strength didn't come from superior weapons or advanced technology. It came from love, loyalty, and the unshakable belief that no one should suffer alone. Those qualities were what kept him going. Even when the weight of his mission threatened to crush him, training sessions became increasingly intense as the team honed their skills under Zinara's guidance. She demonstrated techniques for moving silently through alien environments, using shadows and natural cover to avoid detection. During combat drills, she emphasized speed and precision, showing them how to exploit the Volari's overconfidence in their own superiority. One day, while practicing hand-to-hand combat in the ship's cargo bay, Ethan found himself paired with Zanara. Despite her slender frame, she moved with incredible agility, dodging his attacks effortlessly and countering with swift, calculated strikes. After several minutes of sparring, she managed to pin him to the floor, her hands firmly planted on his shoulders. "You're too predictable," she teased, a playful smile tugging at her lips. "The Volari will see your moves coming a mile away." Ethan chuckled, raising his hands in mock surrender. All right. Teach me your secrets." Zanara helped him up, her expression turning serious once again. "It's not just about technique. You must think like your enemy, anticipate their actions, use their arrogance against them." Over the next few days, Ethan practiced relentlessly, determined to master Zanara's lessons. Slowly but surely, he began to improve. Earning nods of approval from both Zanara and Captain Cole, the bond between them grew stronger with every session, built on mutual respect and trust, despite the progress they were making. Tensions occasionally flared within the group. Jake, in particular, seemed uneasy around Zanara. While the others welcomed her presence, he kept his distance, rarely speaking to her unless necessary. Ethan noticed this behavior and confronted Jake one evening after dinner. "What's your problem with Zinara?" Ethan asked bluntly, folding his arms across his chest. Jake shrugged, avoiding eye contact. "I don't have a problem with her. I just don't trust her. Do we know she's not leading us into a trap?" "Shh. Saved my life," Ethan replied sharply. "And she's given us intel we'd never have gotten otherwise. If you can't see that, then maybe you're the one we should worry about." Jake scowled but didn't argue further. Ethan knew Jake's distrust stemmed from fear rather than malice, but it still frustrated him. Couldn't afford to let doubt creep into the team, not now when they needed unity more than ever to ease the tension. Zanara took the initiative to include herself in group activities. She joined Maria and Sam for card games in the rec room, laughing at their jokes and occasionally surprising them with her quick wit. When Jake reluctantly participated, she treated him with kindness, never holding his suspicions against him. Over time, his hostility softened, placed by cautious acceptance. As the ship drew closer to Zitharian, the mood aboard became increasingly somber. Everyone understood the stakes of the upcoming mission. Failure wasn't an option, not when so many lives depended on their success. During one of their final briefings, Captain Cole addressed the team with uncharacteristic solemnity. "This isn't just another raid," he said, pacing back and forth in front of the holographic map of Zitharian. "This is a fortress, a stronghold. Every step you take inside will be monitored, every move scrutinized. There won't be a second chance." "We know the risks," Ethan said firmly, meeting Cole's gaze. "But we also know what's at stake. We're ready." Cole studied him for a moment, then nodded. "Good. Then remember this. Stick to the plan, watch each other's backs, and don't lose sight of why we're doing this. For those who can't fight for themselves, for hope." When the briefing ended, Ethan sought out Zanara, finding her standing alone in the observation deck. She stared out at the swirling nebula outside, her expression unreadable. "Are you scared?" he asked gently, joining her at the window. She glanced at him, her luminous eyes betraying a flicker of vulnerability. "Yes," she admitted. "Not for myself, for you, for your team." It won't, Ethan interrupted, placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder. We've trained for this, and we've got you with us. Together we can do this. Zanara smiled faintly, though sadness lingered in her gaze. You remind me of my brother, she said quietly. He always believed he could change the universe. Maybe you can too. Ethan felt a lump rise in his throat. He didn't know much about Zinara's brother, but he understood the pain of losing someone close. We'll honor his memory, he promised, by fighting for everyone who's lost hope. For a moment, neither of them spoke. They simply stood there, side by side, drawing strength from each other's presence. In that quiet companionship, Ethan realized how far they had come from strangers thrown together by circumstance, two allies bound by shared purpose. The next morning, the ship entered Zitharian's orbit as the planet loomed large in the viewport. Its surface scarred by industrial complexes and towering fortresses, Ethan felt a surge of determination. This was at the culmination of months of preparation, sacrifice, perseverance. No matter what awaited them below, Ethan knew one thing for certain. He would stop at nothing to bring Lily home. And with Zanara by his side, he believed they could face whatever horrors lay ahead. End of document. Document Part 2. Ethan's days quickly fell into a rhythm of grueling training and restless nights. The Frontier Guard's base was hidden deep within the dense woods of northern Michigan, far from prying eyes. It was a place where time seemed to blur, marked only by the rising and setting of the sun, or sometimes not at all, when Ethan spent hours inside dimly lit simulation rooms practicing combat scenarios. The first few weeks were brutal. Ethan had never considered himself weak, but the physical demands of the program pushed him to his limits. He woke up every morning with sore muscles and bruises that refused to heal, yet he forced himself to keep going. Each punch thrown, each sprint completed, brought him one step closer to finding Lily. That thought alone fueled his determination. Captain Ryan Cole, a stern man in his late 40s, with sharp features and an even sharper gaze, became both mentor and taskmaster. You think you can save your sister just by wanting it bad enough? Cole barked during one particularly intense session. Wanting isn't enough. You need skills, discipline, and most importantly, you need to survive. Gritted his teeth as he struggled through another round of hand-to-hand combat drills against a much larger opponent. His knuckles stung from repeated impacts, but he refused to back down. When the match ended, leaving him gasping for air on the mat, Cole crouched beside him. Good effort, he said gruffly. But effort won't cut it out there. You have to be better than them? Better than who? Ethan asked between breaths, wiping sweat from his brow. The Valar, Cole replied. They're fast, strong, and merciless. If you want to stand a chance, you'll have to push past what you think you're capable of. Ethan nodded, silently vowing to do exactly that. He immersed himself in every aspect of the training, learning how to handle advanced weapons, navigating alien terrains, and even studying the psychology of different extraterrestrial species. He pored over reports detailing encounters with the Valar, memorizing their tactics and weaknesses. Every piece of information felt like another weapon in his arsenal. As the weeks turned into months, Ethan began to notice subtle changes in himself. His body grew leaner and stronger, his reflexes sharper. More importantly, his mindset shifted. Gone was the uncertainty that had plagued him in those early days. Now there was only focus, a laser-like determination to reclaim what had been taken from him. But it wasn't just physical strength that the Frontier Guard emphasized. They drilled into Ethan the importance of teamwork. Out there, Cole often reminded him, you won't be fighting alone. Trust your team or die trying. At first, trusting others didn't come easily to Ethan. He had always relied on himself, especially after losing his parents. But as he trained alongside his fellow recruits, bonds began to form. There was Maria, a fiery young woman with a knack for strategy. Jake, a quiet but skilled marksman whose calm demeanor masked a fierce loyalty. And Sam, a tech genius who could hack into any system given enough time. Together, they formed a tight-knit unit, supporting each other through the toughest challenges. One evening, after a long day of training, Ethan found himself sitting around a small campfire with the group. The flames cast flickering shadows on their faces as they shared stories about why they had joined the Frontier Guard. Maria spoke of her brother, who had vanished during a supposed hiking trip near Roswell years ago. Jake mentioned vague rumors of abductions in his hometown, though he kept the details vague. Even Sam admitted to having seen strange lights in the sky as a child, sparking a lifelong fascination with the unknown. When it was Ethan's turn, he hesitated. Talking about Lily still brought a lump to his throat, but he knew these people deserved honesty. "My sister was taken," he said quietly, staring into the fire. "Right in front of me, I couldn't stop it. I won't let that happen again." No one spoke for a moment, letting his words hang in the air. Then Maria reached over and placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. "We'll get her back," she said firmly. "All of us." For the first time since Lily's abduction, Ethan allowed himself to feel a glimmer of hope. Maybe he wasn't entirely alone in this fight. As the training progressed, Ethan also learned more about the Valari. They were a highly advanced species, known for their ability to adapt to almost any environment. Their technology far surpassed anything humans had developed, making them formidable opponents. What made them truly terrifying, however, was their ruthlessness. Entire civilizations had been wiped out or enslaved under their rule, reduced to mere tools for their empire's expansion. "They see us as inferior," Cole explained during a briefing. "Less than animals. To them, we're either resources to exploit or obstacles to eliminate." Ethan clenched his fists at the thought of Lily being treated as nothing more than property. "We can't let them win," he said fiercely. "No, we can't," Cole agreed, "which is why we're sending you on your first mission next week." Ethan's heart skipped a beat. "Where?" "A Lari outpost on a moon called Krylo 7, Cole replied. "It's not heavily guarded, but it's a good opportunity to test your skills and gather intel. We believe some of their captives are being held there." Though excitement coursed through him, Ethan also felt a pang of fear. This wasn't just another drill, it was real. Lives depended on him, and not just Lily's. If he failed, innocent people would suffer. The night before the mission, Ethan lay awake in his bunk, staring at the ceiling. Images of Lily flashed through his mind, her laughter, her smile, the way she used to beg him to tell her ghost stories before bed. He missed her so much it hurt, but that pain only strengthened his resolve. Tomorrow, he would take his first step toward bringing her home. When dawn broke, Ethan suited up alongside his team. The armor felt heavy on his shoulders, but it also gave him a sense of purpose. As they boarded the transport ship bound for Krylo 7, Cole approached him one last time. "Remember," the captain said, his tone softer than usual, "stay focused. Stick to the plan. Whatever happens, don't lose sight of why you're doing this." Ethan nodded, gripping his rifle tightly. "I won't." As the ship lifted off, Ethan gazed out the window at the shrinking planet below. Somewhere out there, Lily was waiting for him. She might be scared, hurt, or worse, but Ethan refused to entertain those thoughts. All that mattered was getting to her. For the first time in months, Ethan felt ready. Ready to face whatever horrors awaited him. Ready to fight for his sister. Ready to show the universe that no matter how powerful its enemies were, love and love, determination could overcome anything. End of document. Document. Part 3. The transport ship descended through the thin atmosphere of Krylo 7, its engines humming softly as it approached the barren surface. Outside the windows, the landscape stretched endlessly, a desolate expanse of gray rock and jagged cliffs under a pale purple sky. Ethan sat in silence, his fingers gripping the edge of his seat as he prepared himself for what lay ahead. This was at the moment he had been training for. Maria leaned over from her seat beside him, her voice low but steady. "You ready?" Ethan nodded, though his stomach churned with nerves. "As ready as I'll ever be." Jake, seated across from them, adjusted his helmet and smirked. "Just remember, shoot first, ask questions later. These Valari don't play nice." "Got it," Ethan replied, forcing a small smile. He glanced at Sam, who was busy fiddling with a handheld device that monitored the outpost's energy signatures. The tech expert looked up briefly and gave him a thumbs up. his expression calm despite the tension in the air. The ship touched down on a rocky plateau, safe distance from the Valerie outpost. Through the viewport, Ethan could see the structure in the distance, a hulking mass of sleek metal jutting out of the ground like some alien monolith. It was surrounded by smaller guard towers and patrolling drones, their movements methodical and precise. Captain Cole stood at the front of the cabin, addressing the team one last time. Our objective is simple: infiltrate, gather intel, and extract any captives if possible. Stick to the plan, stay alert, and avoid unnecessary risks. Understood? Everyone nodded, their faces set with determination. As the hatch opened, cold air rushed into the cabin, carrying with it the faint scent of ozone. Ethan took a deep breath, shouldered his rifle, and followed Maria down the ramp. The group moved quickly across the uneven terrain, sticking to the shadows cast by the towering cliffs. The moon's weak gravity made every step feel lighter, almost surreal. Ethan kept his eyes peeled for movement, his heart pounding in his chest. This was no simulation. One wrong move could mean disaster. They reached the perimeter of the outpost without incident, crouching behind a cluster of boulders to survey the area. Sam pulled out his scanner again, studying the readings intently. There's a weak point. In their security grid about 50 meters east, he whispered. We can slip through there without triggering alarms. Good work, Cole said, nodding approvingly. Let's move. The team crept forward, staying low to avoid detection. Ethan's pulse quickened as they neared the gap in the security field. For a brief moment, he thought he heard something, a faint worry sound, but when he turned his head, there was nothing. Just the eerie stillness of the alien wasteland. Once inside, they found themselves in a narrow corridor lit by pulsating blue lights embedded in the walls. The air was cool and carried a metallic tense that made Ethan's skin crawl. Every sound echoed unnaturally, amplifying the sense of unease. Split up, Cole instructed quietly. Maria and Jake, take the left passage. Ethan and Sam, go right. We'll meet back here in 20 minutes. Radio if you find anything. Ethan exchanged a glance with Sam before heading down the assigned hallway. His footsteps were muffled against the smooth floor, but he couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. The walls seemed to close in around him, oppressive. An alien? After several minutes of cautious exploration, they came across a door marked with strange symbols glowing faintly green. Sam examined the control panel next to it, his fingers flying over the keys as he bypassed the lock. With a soft hiss, the door slid open, revealing a large chamber beyond. Inside, rows of cylindrical pods lined the walls, each containing a figure, suspended in a translucent liquid. Some of the occupants appeared human or at least humanoid, while others were clearly alien, their forms twisted and unfamiliar. Ethan's breath caught in his throat as he scanned the room, searching for any sign of Lily. She's not here, he muttered, disappointment sinking heavily in his chest. Sam moved closer to one of the pods, examining the readouts displayed. On a nearby console, these are stasis chambers, he explained. They're keeping these beings alive but unconscious. It's probably for experimentation, or worse. Ethan clenched his fists, anger bubbling beneath the surface. We have to free them. We don't have time, Sam replied grimly. If we shut down the system, it'll trigger an alert. We need to stick to the mission. Reluctantly, Ethan nodded. As much as he wanted to help the captives, he knew Sam was right. They couldn't risk jeopardizing the entire operation. When Lily might still be out there somewhere just as they turned to leave, a loud clang echoed through the corridor outside. Ethan froze, exchanging a panicked look with Sam. What was that? Before either of them could react, a squad of Valari. Soldiers rounded the corner, their weapons raised and glowing eyes fixed menacingly on the intruders. Time seemed to slow as Ethan processed the situation. There was no way out except through them. Get behind me, Ethan shouted, raising his rifle. Without hesitation, he fired a burst of plasma rounds at the nearest soldier, the impact sending it stumbling backward. Sam scrambled to cover, pulling out a small EMP grenade and tossing it into the fray. The explosion sent a wave of electromagnetic energy rippling through the corridor, temporarily disabling the Valari weapons. Seizing the opportunity, Ethan charged forward, firing rapidly as Maria and Jake arrived to provide backup. Together, they fought their way past the stunned aliens, their teamwork seamless despite the chaos. When the dust settled, Ethan leaned against the wall, breathing heavily. His hands trembled slightly as he reloaded his weapon, adrenaline coursing through his veins. That had been too close. "You okay?" Maria asked, concern etched on her face. "I'm fine," Ethan replied, though his voice betrayed his exhaustion. "Let's just get out of here." They regrouped with Cole and made their way back to the extraction point, moving faster now that their presence was likely compromised. Along the way, Sam managed to download valuable data from a terminal, which he assured them would help locate other Valari strongholds, including potential leads on Lily's whereabouts. As they reached the ship, Ethan paused to glance back. At the outpost, smoke billowed from sections of the structure where their attack had caused damage, but it remained largely intact. The Valar weren't defeated, they were merely inconvenienced. Still, as the transport lifted off and soared into the sky, Ethan allowed himself a small measure of satisfaction. He had faced the enemy and survived. More importantly, he had proven to himself that he was capable of fighting back. Back on board, Cole gathered the team for a debriefing. "Good work today," he said, his tone gruff but approving. "Handled yourselves well under pressure, but don't get cocky. This is only the beginning." Ethan listened silently, his mind already racing ahead. The mission had yielded crucial information, but it also reinforced the enormity of the task before him. The Valari were ruthless and powerful, and saving Lily wouldn't be easy. Yet for the first time since she was taken, Ethan felt a flicker of hope. He wasn't alone in this fight. With the Frontier Guard by his side, he had allies who believed in him and in the cause. And as long as there was even a sliver of a chance to rescue Lily, Ethan knew he would never give up. No matter how many battles lay ahead, he was ready to face them. For Lily, for justice, for humanity itself. End of document. Document. Part 1. The sun was setting over the small town of Maplewood, Ohio, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Ethan Carter stood in his backyard, leaning against the old wooden fence that surrounded their modest home. His hands were shoved into the pockets of his jeans, and his boots scuffed at the dry dirt beneath them. Beside him, Lily, his younger sister, sat cross-legged on the grass, her blonde hair catching the fading sunlight as she stared up at the stars beginning to appear. "Do you think aliens are real?" Lily asked suddenly, her voice carrying a mix of curiosity and wonder. She turned her head toward Ethan, her blue eyes wide with excitement. Ethan chuckled softly, shaking his head. "Aliens? Come on, Lil. Don't tell me you've been watching those cheesy sci-fi movies again." "No, I'm serious," Lily insisted, sitting up straighter. "What if they're out there watching us right now? What if they're trying to talk to us, but we just don't know how to listen?" Ethan raised an eyebrow, amused by her enthusiasm. At 17, he didn't have much time for fantasies about extraterrestrial life. His days were filled with working part-time at the local garage and taking care of Lily since their parents had passed away 3 years ago. Life was hard enough without worrying about little green men from outer space, even if they are real. Ethan said, glancing up at the darkening sky. "I doubt they'd waste their time coming here. There's nothing special about this place." Lily frowned, clearly disappointed by his lack of imagination. "You never believe anything fun before." Ethan could respond. A sudden flash of light lit up the horizon. Both siblings froze, their eyes fixed on the source, a massive object descending rapidly through the clouds. It wasn't a plane or a satellite, it was something else entirely. The craft shimmered with an otherworldly glow, its surface smooth and metallic, reflecting the last remnants of daylight. "What is that?" Lily whispered, her voice trembling. Ethan felt a chill run down his spine. Whatever it was, it didn't belong here. He grabbed Lily's arm instinctively, pulling her closer to him. "Stay behind me," he muttered, his heart pounding in his chest. The ship hovered above the nearby field, its engines emitting a low hum that vibrated through the ground. A beam of bright white light shot downward, illuminating the area like midday Shadows danced wildly across the landscape as strange figures emerged from the craft. They were tall and slender, with elongated limbs and glowing eyes that seemed to pierce through the darkness. "Ethan," Lily whimpered, clutching his sleeve tightly. Her fear was palpable, and Ethan could feel his own panic rising. But he forced himself to stay calm for her sake. "It's okay," he said, though his voice betrayed his unease. "Just stay quiet." The creatures moved with eerie precision, scanning the surroundings as if searching for something or someone. One of them locked its gaze onto Ethan and Lily, tilting its head slightly, as if studying them. Then, without warning, it raised a long, claw-like hand and pointed directly at Lily. "No," Ethan growled, stepping forward protectively. "Leave her alone." But before he could do anything, another beam of light engulfed Lily, lifting her off the ground. She screamed, reaching out desperately for Ethan, but he couldn't reach her in time. The force holding her was too strong, dragging her toward the alien ship. "Lily," Ethan shouted, lunging forward, grabbed onto her arm, trying to pull her back, but the suction was relentless. His feet slipped against the damp grass as he struggled to hold on. For a brief moment, their eyes met hers, filled with terror. His with determination, and then, with a final burst of energy, the beam yanked Lily free from Ethan's grasp. She disappeared into the belly of the ship, leaving Ethan sprawled on the ground, gasping for breath. The craft lingered for only a few seconds longer before ascending into the sky. Disappearing into the night as quickly as it had arrived, Ethan lay there for what felt like hours, staring blankly at the spot where Lily had been taken. His mind raced with questions and emotions, fear, anger, helplessness, but one thought dominated all others. He had to get her back. Over the next few days, Ethan tried everything he could think of to find answers. He reported the incident to the police, but they dismissed it as a prank or some kind of hallucination. He scoured the internet for information about UFO sightings, joining forums and contacting people who claimed to have encountered extraterrestrials. Most of them laughed at him or ignored him altogether, but a few offered cryptic warnings about dangerous organizations that dealt with such matters. Eventually, Ethan stumbled upon a name that kept popping up in various threads: the Frontier Guard. From what he gathered, it was a secretive group dedicated to protecting Earth from extraterrestrial threats. Skeptical, yet desperate, Ethan decided to track them down. It took weeks of searching, but he finally found a Ladon abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of Cleveland, rumored to be a meeting point for members of the organization. Late one evening, armed with nothing but his courage and a flashlight, Ethan made his way inside. The air inside the warehouse was thick with dust, and the faint sound of dripping water echoed through the empty space. Ethan called out hesitantly, unsure of what to expect. To his surprise, a man stepped out of the shadows, his face partially obscured by a hood. "You're either very brave or very stupid," the man said, his voice low and gravelly. "What do you want?" "Wait," my sister, Ethan replied without hesitation. She was taken by aliens. "I need your help to get her back." The man studied him for a moment, then nodded slowly. He led Ethan deeper into the warehouse, where a group of individuals waited around a makeshift table covered in maps and strange devices. They introduced themselves as part of the Frontier Guard, explaining that they monitored and countered threats posed by hostile alien species. When Ethan described the creatures that had abducted Lily, their expressions grew grim. "They're called the Volari," one woman explained. "They're known for enslaving other races and using them for labor or experiments. If your sister has psychic abilities, they'll exploit her for their weapons technology." Ethan felt sick to his stomach. "Then we need to act fast. How do I stop them?" The leader of the group, a grizzled man named Captain Ryan Cole, stepped forward. "Stopping the Volari isn't easy. You'll need training, and even then, the odds aren't in your favor. Are you willing to risk everything for this?" Ethan didn't hesitate. "Yes." And so his journey began. Over the following months, Ethan underwent rigorous physical and mental training, learning how to use advanced weaponry and adapt to zero-gravity environments. He pushed himself harder than he ever thought possible, driven by memories of Lily's frightened face as she was pulled away from him. Through it all, Ethan clung to one unshakable belief: no matter what it took, he would bring his sister home. End of document.